So one of the core staple principles about the Naruto slash Boruto story that has been pretty much consistent since the beginning of the Naruto verse is the idea that the previous generation will eventually be surpassed by the next gen. It's basically like a passing of the baton, so to speak. And I'll be honest with you, at first when Boruto starts, you're doubting that severely could even be the case because a wide variety of different details. For starters, one of the biggest things is that the Boruto cast of new gen characters, they're coming up in an era of peace. They're not coming up in the, battle ridden era that Jiraiya and Orochimaru and Tsunade came up in. They're not coming up in the 4th grade shinobi Akatsuki era that Naruto and Sasuke and them came up in. Like, they're in a whole different ballpark. I mean, granted, obviously in Boruto with, the Kara group and Ishiki Otsutsuki and Code and all that, now they're starting to understand that life ain't all hunky-dory, and when push comes to shove, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. But they didn't come up in a hard era, so it's a lot harder for them to even grasp the idea of what true strength is. However, still, nonetheless, the whole idea of the will of fire, so to speak, that will shine bright should be with these kids. And what if I told you that the next gen, to a certain degree, at the very least a few of them, have already surpassed the likes of Naruto, Sasuke, and to a certain extent, the previous generation? Let's talk about it.
I must go, must leave this house. I must go, the time is now. I must go, it's time to get out.
Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell before we move forward. I drop anime and manga related videos all the time, and I would love for you to be updated. And yeah, we rock together, so subscribe and hit the bell. Now, if you haven't been keeping up to date with the Boruto anime, manga, or story in general, then you're probably right now screaming at the screen, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, what are you even trying to say here? There's no way possible those little runts from the Boruto Naruto Next Generation story are even close or remotely in the ballpark of the gods that we've seen Naruto, Sasuke, and the previous gen to be. I mean, for crying out loud, going 700 chapters and seeing the build up from start to finish of these characters and their strength is something else. You know what I'm saying? You look at them like, oh my god, Sage's 6 paths power, oh my god, Rinnegan, oh my god, Kurama, mastering him, so to speak. There's a lot that happened in that story. Things changed with Boruto. For starters, if you don't know, I don't know what rock you're living under, because even if you weren't a Boruto fan, you at the very least heard that, hey, Naruto no longer has Kurama.
Oh my god.
Hey, Sasuke, his Rinnegan, it is gone.
That's a damn shame.
And it is out of here. He's one-eyed and one-armed and pretty much has been somewhat, to a certain degree, you could say, nerfed. I don't know if that's the right term because people get really upset when you use that, but basically he's nowhere close to as strong as he used to be. And even when he had the Rinnegan, the way Boruto was written, he was constantly running out of chakra, and it was just really bad. Although granted, in retrospect, looking at it, having the Rinnegan to a certain degree, it makes more logical sense that Sasuke would be struggling with chakra preserves, because the Rinnegan has always supposed to have been said to be very taxing. The fact that Pain was using it, Nagato, he was written to be a little bit hacked, because Rinnegan is a powerful and the most powerful ocular power in the Naruto verse. You could argue, the Tensegan and all of these other things, but it's a very, very powerful eye that requires a lot of chakra. So the fact that Sasuke was constantly saying, I'm low on chakra, you could argue that, oh my god, that's so ridiculous, what the heck? And then on the other flip side of it, you could say, hey, yeah, it's supposed to be like that. In fact, the previous wielders of the Rinnegan should have had a similar situation of, oh my god. But that's kind of a little bit distant to where we're at right now, because like I said, both of them have lost pivotal factors to their strength, which leads me to say that some of the new gen members of Boruto and Naruto and whatnot have already surpassed them. Granted, it kind of feels like it's been thrown in our face, and there's certain circumstances that will make you say like, damn, that's how it happened. But it has happened. And by no means am I talking about some of the other gen that aren't really relevant in the manga. Chocho, no, she has not surpassed anybody. I'd argue that maybe she has reached or surpassed some of the kid versions of these characters like Chocho. She's able to go into the butterfly mode and stuff like that. Maybe you could throw the argument that Choji as a kid, yeah, maybe Chocho has surpassed, but Inojin, Metal Lee, all of these characters that are next gen, you know, the children of the Naruto verse, so to speak, they for the most part have been kind of left in the dust. Like, the anime tries its best to kind of make them relevant and give them arcs and all sorts of stuff, but because the manga is the source material and at the end of the day the anime has to meet where the manga's at, it's not like they're ever going to be really pivotal to the big overall arcing factors of, hey, when Code attacks, or hey, the Ishiki battle, for example. Like, even though the anime tried to hype it up and showed a lot of these characters throwing down for the Kara stuff, at the end of the day none of them could, because again the manga pretty much ignores their existence. So even if they get a big boost and a power up, they're only going to be as relevant as the manga will allow them to be, or if there's like, you know, some filler stuff or anime original or anime canon, like, you know, another Deepa shows up and Deepa was really dope, yeah, you could see them flex. But for the most part, like, again, the big threat that we're facing right now with Code and by the way, I'm going to be talking some Boruto spoilers leading up to the latest chapter 72, so you've been warned, and his 10-tailed Jubi army, like, you're not going to really be able to see any of that unless the manga decides to. And let's face it, I've pretty much given up all hope of the manga allowing these characters to be relevant because they don't really get shown. Heck, some of the people that are supposed to be relevant right now, part of the new Team 7, Sarada and Mitsuki, they don't even really get much shine, but we'll talk about them in a second because there is a statement to be said about where their power is at. But I gotta say that, and I gotta stress that, yes, the new gen, not all of them have reached or surpassed the previous gen yet, but some of them have, because despite it being a hacks and despite it being such a convenient plot thread, the karma markings have been one of the biggest boosts to showcasing, yeah, Boruto and Kawaki at the very least, they are some of the best bets we have at fending off people from coming and attacking the leaf. The way Kawaki knows how to wield it, I'll throw the argument that probably Kawaki is a little bit more advanced, especially what we saw he did during the last time when he pierced through Boruto and we saw his new karma mark and his new ocular power and all that stuff. Kawaki is probably the best bet. Also, the fact that he grew up pretty much having to deal with, you know, the experimentation, and he knows more of the ropes, so to speak, of the karma mark, while Boruto is still trying to adjust, and at the same time he has Momoshiki in his head taunting him consistently of, yo dog, you know, this is gonna be my body. Like, but you gotta add in that factor of something that was said in the latest chapter 72 of Boruto. Momoshiki is never going to pretty much let anything happen to Boruto at this particular point. Like, pretty much it's similar to when Naruto would be damaged or whatnot, and Kurama would think about, despite the fact that he hated Naruto at that particular point, self-preservation. Also, the fact that it's pretty much been outright damn near stated that Boruto and Kawaki, where they're at right now, are somewhat on par, if not close to surpassing the likes of Naruto and Sasuke right now. We all know, and if you don't, that Naruto and Sasuke, they're not unstoppable anymore. In fact, we've seen basically post Ishiki that, yeah, they're somewhat weaker than they've been in a very long time. Naruto, granted, still has Sage Mode, he still has the experience, he still has the Rasengan, and at the end of the day, he's still the Hokage for a reason. Likewise with Sasuke, he still has the Sharingan, the Mangekyo in one eye, and he still has all the experiences from his travels. But Kawaki right now, where he's at with his karma and whatnot, you could throw the argument that probably he's a lot better of a bet to throw up against somebody like the likes of Code. And just in general, if we're being honest here, it's, you know, definitely without a doubt a plot device, but karma really gives them some insane capabilities that is just kind of somewhat unfair, but we see that they're going to stick with them at the very least up until a certain point in the time skip, because we see that they're clearly wielding it as they're clashing in that futuristic battle that they have. So we know that they're definitely going to keep karma for a long time, and if karma gives them these abilities, then we got two people at the very least that have somewhat surpassed a lot of the previous gen. Like Kawaki versus damn near anybody of the Konoha 11, pretty much Kawaki has it at this particular point. Like, you ain't gonna tell me Kiba is gonna throw down against, Kawaki and take the W. Likewise with a lot of them. Like, Kawaki pretty much surpasses all of them. And again, I feel like I'm underselling Boruto, because Boruto right now is really freaking strong with his karma mark as well. Which leaves pretty much the other half of the new Team 7, the likes of Mitsuki and Sarada. Let's not forget the fact that Mitsuki pretty much from the start of the series had the capabilities of using the Sage mode, and his Sage mode was pretty freaking hacked. It honestly looked like some weird Super Saiyan shit that I was already like, oh my god, he's pretty freaking strong. The only downside is that he can't really use it that often because it could cost him his life. Obviously, Mitsuki is an experimentation from Orochimaru, so things are a little bit more dicey, but just imagine the next couple years, however long the time skip is going to be, what would happen if he's able to master that? Considering the fact that, again, the likes of Naruto and Sasuke have been nerfed, there's a possibility that after a decent amount of training, this kid that has been able to use this technique from jump, from being, a little kid or whatnot, could potentially already reach or surpass their strength as well. I know it sounds a little bit ridiculous, but we gotta keep on insisting on the message of the previous gen is surpassed by the next gen. Similar to, you could throw the argument that somebody that really doesn't understand Naruto per se, or didn't see all of the journey, could say, well, how the hell did, these 15-year-old, 16-year-old ninja, Naruto and Sasuke, surpass the likes of Hashirama and Madara? It's part of the whole thing. Again, maybe you could argue that it seems a bit ridiculous, or you don't like it because these kids, they didn't have to go through all the things that our cast went through, but it's there. Now, Sarada is a little bit tricky, right? Despite the fact that on a technicality, she's probably the best fighter of all of them. She knows how to throw down. She's probably the wisest as well. Like, Boruto ain't as wise as her. Likewise with Kawaki, he just got a really bad attitude. And Mitsuki, as smart as he is, Sarada has them beat in that aspect. But her ocular power still is developing. I can't remember right now in the anime and manga if she has 2 or 3 tomos, but even if she has 3 tomos, that still doesn't equal to where her father's at right now. He has the Mangekyo. So until she gets a Mangekyo, which I think is also doable in the time skip depending on what happens, because obviously it has to be some extreme pain. So either she has to see like her father or her mother or one of her teammates in severe trouble. Like, it would have been perfect, now that I think about it, if she would have saw Boruto getting pierced by Kawaki. Boom, that could have unlocked Mangekyo. I'm just saying, like, missed opportunity. But nevertheless, if she unlocks Mangekyo and we go into a time skip, hey, she has all 4 of her ligaments, her arms and legs. Her father don't. Likewise with having 2 eyes. Unless Sasuke goes on some wild shit and he's like, yo dog, I don't care about nothing no more, I'm taking my daughter's eyes. It's a safe bet that even during a time skip, Sarada might be able to actually advance to a point where, I don't know if it'll surpass her father's strength, but having the knowledge of being the new gen, and on top of that training and all that stuff, it could give her an edge. Will it surpass Naruto and Sasuke? I don't know, because the biggest thing that allows Boruto and Kawaki to reach that level is their karmas. Call it a plot device or whatever. That's what allows them. Mitsuki having Sage mode from jump gives him an edge up. Sarada is kind of the one that is just all natural, and why I say that still she's the perfect person to be the next Hokage, assuming Shikamaru or Sasuke aren't. And well, Shikamaru got them death flags all over him. It's like he's walking with a red flag in his back pocket. So definitely Sarada, while it might take her longer, in the long run, she will surpass them as well. And throwing even further into the argument of the next gen, look at the next gen of villains right now. Post Ishiki, because I feel like Ishiki was a time marker for the Boruto series. Ever since then, a lot of things have changed. Naruto and Sasuke are no longer the gods that they are. Boruto and Kawaki have advanced a lot further with their strength, and just in general, the cast have grown, including the villains. Because we can't forget for a second that, hello, Code was already said that once he released his limiters, he would rival that of Jigen's power. Now on top of that, he has an even bigger strength with these 10-tailed freaking Frieza looking thingy-majigs that pretty much give him an even further edge that, yo dog, even the next gen villains have surpassed that of Naruto and Sasuke. And let's not forget that despite him getting that big power up, he also got his ass handed to him by the likes of a little kid, Damon. That also means that if Damon is surpassing that of Code, and Code has probably already surpassed that of Naruto and Sasuke, we have multiple villains that have surpassed the previous gen as well. Again, as ridiculous as it sounds, because like it's a little kid cyborg that could really take out Naruto and Sasuke, but Hey, you look at all the fine details of Code surpassing Naruto and Sasuke, Damon whipping Code's ass. That little boy pretty much is possibly stronger than Naruto and Sasuke. I can't even believe I'm saying this right now. Oh, what have they done? Oh my god! And of course, adding the combination of Ada being, you know, kind of one half of the same whole with Damon, she's just ridiculously in tune and being able to see things and whatnot. So yeah, not only have some of the new gen of the hero side of things, the good side of things, surpassed them, even the villains. And that's that we haven't even had the time skip yet. What happens then? Like, it's crazy to say, but in this point of Boruto, chapter 72 and beyond, pretty much a lot of these characters have either reached or close to or already surpassed the previous gen, and it's only going to get more wider, the gap, as we move forward, because a lot of the previous gen have already been kind of crippled. A lot of the previous gen aren't as relevant, and kind of their strength has been downplayed to a certain degree. Like, yo, you telling me that Rock Lee still can't open all 8 gates despite the fact of how many years of training and shit? I'm just saying, dog, what are they doing? Like, I'm sure Mike Guy can still open up the 8 gates, and he's in a freaking wheelchair. And I guess they also ignore characters that probably could put some of these people on their ass. I mean, Kakashi, at the end of the day, even though he doesn't have Sharingan no more, he's still Kakashi. I'm just saying, like, hey, anytime you want to make some of the really strong characters that were set up from the previous series relevant, go for it. But let me know what you guys think. For starters, which of the new gen characters do you feel are close to, have already surpassed, or will surpass Naruto, Sasuke, and the likes of the previous gen moving forward with the time skip? Do you think that Boruto and Kawaki, as they stand right now, because of that hacks plot device, if you want to call it, the karma mark, have surpassed them? Where do you think they stand in terms of if they went up against Code right now and his new 10-tailed army? And do you feel like the previous gen, the same model that has been handed down from generation to generation in the Narutoverse, being surpassed by the new gen? Do you think that the new gen pretty much have it on lock at this point of being the strongest? And if they have surpassed the previous gen with their newfound powers, again, Boruto Kawaki with the karma mark, Mitsuki with sage mode, and Sarada, she continues to upgrade her Sharingan, does it feel like BS to you? Do you feel like, oh my god, that's so ridiculous? Again, you got to think of it like this. Imagine there was a series that we watched before Naruto. Let's just say we saw the Madara Hashirama series, and then we get to Naruto. Don't you think that you would feel to a certain degree like, oh my god, how is this little squirt in an orange jumpsuit surpassing Hashirama by this point? Like, you probably would have felt the same way, except we didn't have a previous series to go on before we got to Naruto. So you got to keep that in mind. Despite the fact that you love Naruto and you've seen them grow and whatnot, the same could possibly be felt with that gen of, that's BS, how did they pass, you know, these gods, shinobi that we had prior? And your overall thoughts and expectations for Boruto 73 and on with the new gen and this whole concept, the will of fire, the passing of the torch, so to speak. I think to a certain degree, some of them have already been upstaged. Definitely some of the more low tier Konoha 11 have been surpassed by Boruto and Kawaki. Clearly. But that's all I have for this one. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in. And yeah, it looks like the new gen is really shining, even though it's kind of crazy. It's at the detriment of the gen that we grew up with. Yeah.
I have a dream, alone in my room as I sit with the tea. Couldn't possibly think what I often see, and you don't even know how I often blink. Lights be flashing and looking at me, such a odd, unique, yet I'm so unique, and you're looking at me. If the walls could talk, they would probably repeat, and I'd probably say, bitch, get the fuck off me.